Hey gang, welcome back here to Lawrence County High School for another exciting day of econ, and we are in Unit 3, which is sort of a hodgepodge of stuff. Yesterday we were talking about supply and demand and supply curves and demand curves and what happens when we plot those out and when they cross each other and we have that equilibrium point. And also we looked at something called shortages and surpluses. So if we have the price too high and people don't buy much of a good or service, that may cause a surplus of it, which means people aren't buying it, or if the price is too low, they may sell out of that good, which will cause a shortage. Today, we're just sort of completely unrelated, and we're going to look at something called the sectors of the economy. So we're going to look at where every business is going to fit into one of these three categories that we're going to talk about today. So in sectors of the economy, the first one we'll look at is something called the primary sector. It's first. The primary sector is this. It's jobs that extract natural resources from the earth. So let's think about that for a second. We're taking natural resources from the earth. So when you think about jobs in the primary sector, what would you put there? A really easy answer would be mining. Here in eastern Kentucky and western West Virginia, we used to know this very well as coal mining, but it doesn't have to be coal mining. You could be mining for copper, or uranium, or gold, or whatever it is you want to dig up out of the ground. So mining would be one job found in the primary sector. We also put agriculture here. So if you're raising mass quantities of corn or wheat or soybeans or whatever it is you grow to sell, you are still part of the primary sector. And really what it comes down to is we're taking natural resources from the earth here. Fishing. And I'm not talking about going to the Pay Lake and hanging out all night and that kind of fishing. I'm talking about commercial fishing. There used to be a program out called The Deadliest Catch. I don't know if it's still on or not. I don't know what's on. But these people are harvesting mass quantities of fish here that they're going to sell. So once again, they're taking natural resources from the earth. Forestry, which is just a fancy way to say logging. So people who are in the logging industry and they come out and they clear off your hillside and they load them all up on a truck like this and they haul it to the sawmill, that's still part of the primary sector. I took this picture up around Chapman, I think, and I don't know if this, it's one of the natural gas wells, and this is when they were still working on it and constructing the site here, and this has probably been, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I don't know if this big flame is still burning there. If you live up Chapman or if you've ever been up through there, it probably doesn't look like this anymore, but you may still know where that gas well is. You know, Lawrence County really was just a boom area for all the natural gas wells that were drilled here a couple of years ago. But they're not selling really a whole lot of that gas right now because there's a lot of natural gas and oil on the market. Let's look at the secondary sector. It has a little bit different function. The secondary sector takes the output of the primary sector and then produces finished products. So they're going to take the lumber or the timber, the trees that was cut in the primary sector, and they're going to turn them into tables. So you're going to make a finished product out of the raw materials. Or here, they are taking the fish that was caught on the boat, and probably these are going to be sardines, and they're going to put them in these little cans, and they're going to sell them to us on a little tin of sardines. How many of you like mustard sardines? Maybe that's something you could do during the great quarantine of 2020 is have a sardine party at your house. Don't invite me. So the secondary sector is taking the output of the primary sector and producing a finished good. Our third sector is something called the tertiary sector. This will be the third sector. And what they do is they provide services to consumers as well as businesses. You know, here's the key here. They're providing services. So examples of tertiary sector jobs would be retail. Oh, look at this, a crowded Walmart. So if you're involved in selling, and retail just means you are selling goods to someone. I put Walmart up here because it's easier. This could be a shoe store. This could be a store that sold hockey sticks. It could be a store that sold blenders. Whatever it is, it's retail sales. Clothing stores. Even when you go buy cars at the car lot, that's retail sales. So anything that involves retail. Here's a McDonald's. This is retail. So you're selling goods and services. That's part of the tertiary sector. Also, anyone involved in the transportation sector. So if you're an airline pilot or you're involved, maybe you're a steward or stewardess, You're an engineer or a brakeman on a train. Do you even have a brakeman anymore? You're driving the big rigs, or you're running these giant cargo ships. You know, it could be people who are driving the mass transit, maybe Greyhound bus drivers, maybe they're subway drivers, moving people. That's part of the tertiary. You're providing a service. You're taking either goods or services from one place to another. We'll also put healthcare in this area. So anytime you go to the doctor, they're actually providing you with a service. Once again, all the tertiary stuff is focused on services. So this wonderful person here is getting their teeth checked and cleaned. Or maybe you want to go in and you want to have a spot checked on your body somewhere. Or maybe you've broken your arm and you don't want to have a broken arm anymore. All this is part of the tertiary sector. We'll put education up here. Teachers, anyone who works in the school system, tertiary sector. As an added bonus, can anyone identify this person right here? This is a very famous teacher in the movies. Every year I ask this question, and as time goes on, fewer and fewer people know who this is. So I'll go ahead and tell you. It's Mr. Hand, H-A-N-D. Look up Mr. Hand. He was a very important teacher, known globally. Also, people involved in the wall here. So if you happen to be an attorney, like this gentleman here, who looks a whole lot like Mike Hogan, these are all tertiary sectors of the economy because you're providing a service. And I guess this would easily flow into law enforcement if you're a sheriff or a deputy or a city policeman or a federal marshal. All those are tertiary sector. So just to review this real quick. Primary sector takes raw materials from the earth. You're taking things like you're either mining for coal, you're growing a crop to sell, you're doing commercial fishing, you're cutting timber, you're bringing oil and natural gas out of the ground. That's primary sector. Secondary sector takes those raw materials and turns those into finished goods. These are the factories that take all the raw materials and build cars and tennis rackets and clickers like this. Then the tertiary sector would just be all the service industry jobs. Restaurants, stores you go purchase things in, the school, law enforcement, anyone providing you with a service. So those are our different sectors of the economy. We'll be back tomorrow with more interesting economic discussion.